إنها شامة وحربة.
خليك هادي يا زكي عنا علم تكون سيد مدرسة وتطفي علم. خليك هادي يا زكي عنا عالم تكون سيد مدرسة وتطفي علم. وش كل شجرة بتنوجد جوا العلم إلا الغرسها بجبلنا ربنا. إلا
وبيت النظر وكبرى الوفاء وقطع البناية ويمضى عبيدي يا صار وضاق الطيران لو صار مريمية سايق عليك النبي غفران الحبيب يا باعد عيني يا
يا لايف ريال
Stand up tall. This is a wake-up call. Never again, never again, never again for all. To all my people in Gaza, who don't even talk to each other.
جمعوا معاهم الجزيرة باش تعدي مباشر تو معاهم الناس كلها هناك لازم عندي جاهزين احنا كلنا هنا يلا نقعد ولا كيفاش شوف معهم نظم الجزيرة الباسي
يلقى المهانة كل من شهادة قدامه تحيا فلسطين ويسقط الصهيوني.
هادي يا زكي عنا عانى سيد مدرسة وتنسيحنا مش كل شجرة نشهد ثم العلم بزمن
Oh, I was see.
Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone! Welcome to the first action of its kind, a historic, monumental moment where health workers across the globe and organizations have taken time out of their lives to come to the belly of the beast and protest outside the UN headquarters to demand immediate humanitarian intervention. So, to kickstart our activities this afternoon, we have got the Italian delegation who are going to sing an amazing song that I'm sure a lot of you have heard really uplifting, and this will motivate us to continue on our campaign for health justice through the rest of the week. All right, everybody. If you are part of the press and you want to record this, please come and put your camera into position. And everybody else, can you step back? So allow a little space, and then I'm going to hand you the microphone. Perfect. After this performance, we're going to have a press release, which will be read by Dr. Sarah.
Stamattina sono svegliato, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Stamattina mi sono svegliato e ho trovato l'invaso. Partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via, e mi sento di morire. Se io muoio da partigiano, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Se io muoio da partigiano, tu mi devi seppellire lassù in montagna. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 seppellire sotto partigiano. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 seppellire partigiano. La libertà, tanto per la libertà.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free
Palestine!
Free, free
Palestine!
In a thousands, in a millions! In a millions, in a millions! Healthcare is a human right. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. From the sea to the river. From the sea to the river.
Palestine will prevail!
In a thousand, in a million. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
It is my great honor to welcome you for this first collective event organized by the Alliance of Healthcare Workers for Justice, because healthcare is a human right, first of all. This is the first time that over 100 medical organizations from 30 countries have come together to take a stance for healthcare violations that have been broken like we have never seen in our lifetimes. We are taking a stance. We are just at the beginning. This is our first action collectively, but it's certainly not our last. I would like to read to you our declaration and why we are here today, why people have come from all over the world to be here today. We, caregivers of the world, are gathered here at the front of the headquarters of the UN to demand a lasting ceasefire in the Middle East. The release of caregivers and civilians arbitrarily imprisoned by Israel. We demand the restoration of the International Red Cross to have access to all prisoners, something that is an obligation under international law, but for months has been blocked. We want an effective UN protection of health workers and civilians, because we have seen in the last 15 months that we need that protection now more than ever. An unimpeded entry of adequate humanitarian aid into Gaza and legal proceeding for the violation of international law. It should never be allowed that health workers are a target without any consequences, because that means not only that there will be no justice, but also that it sets a dangerous precedent, both in the region and in the rest of the world, that we no longer are protected. 1 year after the ICG's decision, none of the measures demanded by this high court, the highest court in the world, have been implemented. This found the mounting evidence of ethnic cleansing and acts of genocide. The complicity of too many states, some by their silence, most of them by their logistical support, despite multiple warnings of the risk of genocide, constitutes an outrage against the most fundamental human rights, as is the attempts to intimidate those who support the oppressed. The repeated and systematic attack on healthcare workers and facilities for over a year now, the arbitrary detention and torture of our colleagues, which is well documented, the restriction of entry of humanitarian aid only fueled our indignation and our determination to fight against this dangerous trend initiated by the government of Israel to break the most fundamental human rights with impunity. Our repeated appeals emanating from the respective countries we come from, in which mobilizations were organized, week after week without respite, interpellation of our political leaders, various awareness raising action we have carried out so far have failed to persuade the decision maker to take the necessary actions and to put an end to the massacre that will go down in history as a very black page indeed. All of this has forged an international solidarity with our Palestinian healthcare colleagues. We are also thinking of their patients and the entire Gazan civilian population who are suffering as a result of the world's inaction and indecision. Our determination to act relentlessly in the face of flagrant injustice is stronger than ever. Our fight is just, moral, ethical, and legal. Our professional commitment, our medical oath requires us to fight for dignified healthcare beyond all borders. We who care for patients around the world day after day would be lousy professionals if we did not care for our colleagues who are struggling to save lives, so much so that they themselves become targets. Demanding quality care means respecting our professionals and applying their ethical principles to the end, accepting that it's time to act for the people of Gaza. Healthcare is not a target and should under any circumstances never become one. We are determined to continue our fight until this fundamental and evident principle is respected.
Thank you. Bravo. Gaza! 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 Gaza!
Free Dr. Hussam! Free our colleagues!
Way.
So guys, next up on the program agenda, we're going to have a series of speakers from each representative country. So please do stay tuned. These amazing individuals who have been advocates for the Palestinian health justice have flown in from across the world, and a lot of them, some of them are Palestinians too, with ties to what is happening in the West Bank and Gaza. It's going to be quite emotional. So yeah, get comfortable. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. We want justice, tell me how. Release Dr. Hassan now. We want justice, tell me how. Release Dr. Hassan now. We want justice, tell me how. Sanction, sanction, Israel now. Lift the siege from Gaza now. Release Dr. Hassan now. Okay, thank you. So first up, I would like to start this off by centering Palestinian voice. So it's a great honor to invite up onto the platform here Mesa from Doctors Against Genocide, who's come all the way from Canada to join this encampment. Big welcome for Mesa!
Thank you. And free Palestine in our lifetime. Today, I stand before you as a representative of Doctors Against Genocide Canada. We have a nice background music. A collective of medical professionals united by one simple, undeniable truth. There is no health without human rights. Our mission is rooted in our shared responsibility to protect life, dignity, and the sanctity of humanity. Values that are being systemically violated in Gaza, in Palestine, and in other regions subjected to atrocities that the world can no longer afford to ignore. Over the past year and a half, we have witnessed harrowing evidence of genocide. Hospitals reduced to rubble, doctors forced to make impossible decisions as bombs fall, children orphaned in the blink of an eye. These horrors are not just statistics. They are real lives, real families, and real futures obliterated under the watch of a global community that too often responds with silence, paralysis, or empty rhetoric. Our demands today, Doctors Against Genocide presents the following clear and urgent demands. We call for a permanent ceasefire and unrestricted humanitarian access. Temporary pauses and half measures are not enough. The people of Gaza must be guaranteed the right to live in safety, dignity, and peace, free from the constant threat of violence and destruction.
Courage.
Second, protection of healthcare infrastructure. Medical facilities are not legitimate targets of war. We call on the international community to enforce the Geneva Conventions and protect hospitals, clinics, ambulances, and medical personnel from attack. We call on the immediate deployment of fact-finding missions led by healthcare experts to document the deliberate targeting of healthcare systems, the denial of medical supplies, and the overall impact of violence on public health in Gaza and in Palestine. These missions must report their findings to the global community to ensure transparency and action. We are calling on the formation of a medical alliance against genocide. We urge the international medical community to unite and joining us in condemning the weaponizing of healthcare, in standing with our Palestinian colleagues, and in mobilizing resources to ensure that medicine serves its purpose to heal, not to harm. And to governments, humanitarian organizations, and individuals watching today, this is not the time of neutrality. Neutrality in the face of genocide is complicity. To Canada and its allies, we call on you to stop the military aid and trade with regimes complicit in genocide. We ask you to take decisive action in international forums to protect civilians and uphold international law. To the United Nations, the world is watching, and history will not absolve you if you fall to act. Enforce your resolutions, uphold your charter, and fulfill your mandate to protect the most vulnerable. To the public, use your voice. Demand that your leaders act. Demand that media coverage reflects the humanity and suffering of those caught in this crisis. Your voice matters, and it can save lives. To be clear, this is not just about Gaza. It's about all of us. When we fail to stand against genocide, we undermine the very fabric of our shared humanity. When healthcare becomes a casualty of war, it is a betrayal of the principles that bind us as a global community. As healthcare workers, as healers, we are trained to save lives. But today, we cannot do it alone. We need political will, we need accountability, and we need all of you. In closing, I leave you with the words of one of our Palestinian colleagues who, while operating in a bombed-out hospital, said, "We do not need pity. We need protection." It is our collective duty to provide that protection, to stand with them, to demand justice, and to ensure that the words "never again" are not hollow, but a promise we keep. Thank you, and free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Thank you.
And now,
One second, guys. Apologies. Let me, where are the, Gary, you over there. So our professional camera people have arrived. So they're just getting set up to prepare for the next speakers. So we'll just give them a little bit of time for that. Bear with us. Are you all feeling very informed over the past 2 days? I hope that the workshops that you've been engaging has given you some insight on the work that needs to be done, because the ceasefire is just the beginning. It is the bare minimum required, and we have already seen that the Zionist entity has broken this ceasefire, and in fact their campaign of ethnic cleansing has extended to the West Bank and Jenin, with Smotrich, the finance minister, ambassador of terrorism, said that he's going to reduce Jenin to the same fate as Jabalia refugee camp. Shame! So I want you to say after me. From Jabalia to Jenin.
From Jabalia to Jenin.
We resist for Palestine.
We resist for Palestine.
From Jabalia to Jenin.
From Jabalia to Jenin.
We resist for Palestine.
We resist for Palestine.
It's our duty to resist.
It's our duty to resist.
We're fighting to exist.
We're fighting to resist.
It's our duty to resist.
We're fighting to resist.
From Jabalia to Jenin.
From Jabalia to Jenin.
We resist for Palestine.
We We resist for Palestine.
We resist for Palestine.
We resist for Palestine.
Okay, so I think we're about set up now. I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker, who many of you will have recognized from last night's dinner and your welcome arrival. Give it up for our Swiss hosts who have been working tirelessly to make this logistical coordination manifest into this beautiful collaborative of unity. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Sammy! Samia!
Moi, je vais parler en français, donc moi, je fais partie de la team suisse. Et je veux d'abord remercier tous ces formidables personnes qui sont venues aujourd'hui. I'd like to thank all these wonderful people, all these wonderful healthcare workers that joined us for this mobilization. And some of them are coming from very far. And thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You can thank them. C'est qu'une partie, c'est que le début. On est revenu au 6 octobre. Donc là, tout est à faire. La libération, la décolonisation, les sanctions, le boycott, on compte sur tout le monde. Et nous, en tant que soignants, donc les demandes ont été déjà explicitées par la doctoresse Sarah, mais un cessez-le-feu permanent, un accès du CICR aux prisonniers qui sont aux otages palestiniens, pour la plupart. Et on a aussi plein d'autres demandes, mais je pense que mes collègues vont mieux en parler que moi. Donc, on est surtout pour la logistique, mais on est là et puis on va rien lâcher. Voilà, merci.
It is my pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Adla Sukkar from Doctors Against Genocide, the US. Adla has been one of our early and founding members, and she joined us when we were just 8. And she was on our first action. We went to the Hills. So Adla is a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge and expertise, and her passion is incredible. So I look forward to hearing you speak out loud. Thank you.
Practicing pulmonologist, critical care trained physician from Fairfax, Virginia in the United States. And I'm here today as a member of Doctors Against Genocide, or as we affectionately like to call ourselves, DAG. I'm really honored to be with you all today, and I'm finding that I'm recognizing a lot of your faces from the beautiful online community that we have formed together during these terrible times. And while we may not know each other, we're bonded as family by our common humanity. We're bonded, by our shared horror at the world allowing a genocide to unfold before our very eyes. Doctors Against Genocide has given me and so many like me a place to channel anger and frankly grief into constructive action. DAG is a global coalition of healthcare workers dedicated to identifying, confronting, and preventing genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. We are dedicated to the protection of healthcare workers around the world. Let's be frank, why did a group like ours have to be founded? It was founded because we have been utterly failed by those that supposedly are responsible for our demands and our needs. We're here because our elected officials have failed us. We're here because our respective medical associations and institutions have failed us. And we're here because we have been screaming into the wind to protect life, and we're being gaslit at every single turn. We're here to say no more. We're here to say that we demand change and we refuse to go back to the status quo. We are here to demand structural change because our pleas and appeals to the humanity of the politicians do not work. They do not care, or rather, they are loyal to forces with whom we cannot compete at this point in time. Some of you know my family story. I'm a Syrian American who considers it the privilege of my life. Sorry. Of married into a beautiful and large Palestinian family from Gaza. My husband and his family have experienced immense loss over the past 16 months. Like so many of you in this audience, you share our pain. But like so many Palestinian families, our loss did not begin in October of 2023 because genocide is a process. And Palestine was in stage 4 of 10 of genocide before the 7th of October 2023. The stages are classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, persecution, extermination, and finally denial. When I think back over the years, I have found myself marking my life's events by Israeli assaults. My daughter was born shortly before Cast Lead in 2008, and I wondered if she would ever meet her grandparents who were in Gaza at the time under active bombardment. In the summer of 2014, 11 members of my husband's family, including 5 children and his pregnant cousin, were killed when the IOF forces bombed their family home. I was pregnant with my youngest child during that time. My son was born very premature and in the NICU for a month, and all I could think about during that time was how we were lucky to be alive. We were lucky to have access to medical care. Had we been in Gaza during that time, I do not know if either he or I would have survived. Or if we had been in the West Bank, could we have perhaps been one checkpoint away from death, from preventable death, let me add. When I look back at all my days and my nights spent working during the COVID patients during the pandemic, I can't help but think of Gaza and the 2021 assaults from the Israeli forces. And I actually went back to my Facebook feed last night and found a post that I wrote that I wanted to read out to you guys. Say his name, Dr. Ayman Abulalof, head of the COVID-19 task force in Gaza, murdered along with his 19-year-old daughter and his mother with weapons paid for by my tax dollars and yours. This is a war crime. He worked closely with Doctors Without Borders, and I cannot even begin to fathom the chasm his death will leave in the fragile healthcare system in Gaza. Probably similar to the chasm the latest bombing left in the road to his hospital. Patients cannot be transported to the hospital at the moment. Please let this all sink in. The next time I even come close to patting myself on the back for my frontline work during the COVID pandemic, I will think of him and check myself. The next time I lose my cool because the exact supply I needed for a procedure was not at my fingertips, I will think of him and remember how spoiled we all are. I will think of what it must be like to work without basic supplies, with only limited electricity, relying on gas generators, lack of clean water, and lest we forget all the roadblocks, and I mean literal, not figurative blockade to vaccine delivery, only to die in his own home at the hands of the Israeli apartheid military machine. Dying of COVID was probably the least of his worries. This was 2021, folks. So why do I talk about all these things? Why? These stories are just small anecdotes on the timeline of my personal and professional life, but they serve to demonstrate what we all knew and feared, that the ground was fertile for the completion of a genocide in Palestine. We now have bombed hospitals, direct targeting of healthcare infrastructure, the bombing of ambulances, medics, healthcare workers killed in record numbers. And my husband's family has had over 200 members killed to date. As recently as October, I discovered by scrolling on X, can you imagine? Scrolling on X and finding out that 17 more members of your husband's family were killed, 11 of them children. We have experienced every outrageous type of preventable death that all of you have all heard of. We had an infant who froze to death at the age of 20 days in a tent in Rafah in January of 24. And this was after the rest of the family had been killed in a car bombing by evacuating on a quote-unquote safe route. We've had my husband's cousin killed from a preventable injury because he was bombed. He had a leg injury, and the Israeli forces would not allow him to be evacuated to safety. We've had direct targeting of children by quadcopters, bleeding to death at the age of 14 while trying to get bread for the family. And perhaps most egregious We had 3 elderly aunts who were shot on sight when the Israeli forces came to their home in the north of Gaza. 2 sisters were killed immediately on sight. 3rd sister shot in the arm, wheelchair bound, and left by the Israeli forces to slowly bleed. She called our family. We have 3 days of voice recordings of conversations with her, trying to keep her alive before she finally passed. The family contacted the Israeli forces and asked, okay, you've now killed our 3 aunts. Can we please go retrieve the bodies? Do you want to know what they did? They burned the house down. So what was left was her metal wheelchair. That's what was left. We've had babies nearly starve to death when their mother's milk supply was drying up and formula and clean water was scarce. And so as a global community, we have allowed the annihilation of humanitarian law. And we've ripped the lid off of Pandora's box. And I don't know how we close it, and I don't know how we go back, but we have to continue to try. Because I don't think I need to tell you what stage of genocide we're at currently. We have to have seismic change in the frameworks by which we confront genocide. We have to create a mechanism by which we do not wait for its completion before identifying and stopping and evolving genocide. And we need a medical framework in order to make that happen. So we're here today not to just call for a permanent ceasefire, but we're here to call for a cessation of the conditions that led to a genocide. We're here to call for a cease siege. We're here to call for a cease occupation, for a cease apartheid. We cannot return to October 6th, which would be a return to the lower intensity violence of Israeli occupation and ethnic cleansing. We need a permanent ceasefire so that the real work can begin. Palestinians, like all people, deserve freedom, dignity, security, and the right to self-determination. They deserve health and they deserve safety. They deserve to never be at risk again for a genocide. And we are living in truly dystopian times. Today, our illustrious president in the United States has called for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, saying, let's just clear it out. It's just what, like 2 million people? So this is what we're up against, everyone. And so I'm going to reference George Orwell during these times and say, however much you deny the truth goes on existing. And with that, these are our demands. We call for a permanent ceasefire. We call for the release of Dr. Abu Safiya and all the illegally held healthcare workers. We call for the cessation of targeting hospitals. This is a red line. This should not be controversial. We call for the mobilization of healthcare workers to end this genocide. We advocate for a medical framework by which we can prevent genocide, as our legal frameworks have failed us. We call for a protest against what's become the targeting in the West Bank. This cannot be Gaza 2.0. We are seeing targeting of hospitals, healthcare workers, and infrastructure within Jenin. We call on the international community and healthcare community to demand a seat at the table for decisions affecting life and health. And so I just want to end by saying thank you to all of you. Thank you for your solidarity. Your being here today shows your commitment to a better world and your refusal to give up or give in. And we must all continue to find our voices and to step out of our comfort zones to do and to be more. And we simply just have to do the work. Thank you.
Everyone, that was incredibly heavy, incredibly emotional, and a real life personal accounts, eyewitness testimonials. We've got the families of people here who are directly affected by this horrific genocide. You know, some of us are just experiencing the secondhand trauma by watching it unfold live screen, with our governments giving the Zionist entity impunity to commit war crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, mass genocide, basically every single violation of the Geneva Convention. Our government is saying it's A-okay to do it. That sets a really disgusting precedent moving forward, as Dr. Sarah outlined earlier. We cannot allow the world to become this dark dystopian place. We, as ambassadors of humanity and moral citizens of the world, need to say no more, not in our name. And we will not stop and we will not rest until justice and liberation has been achieved. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight. What do we want? When do we want it? Right now. What do we want? Arms embargo. When do we want it? Right now. What do we want? When do we want it? Right now. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? Okay. So I'm going to have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who actually created a platform for many of these health workers to be connected. And this action was on that platform. Really amazing initiative to spark global unity. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to a French nurse called Salim.
في إحساس بالفرح وإحساس بالحزن. إحساس بالفرح لأن الآن الحمد لله شعبنا في غزة يستطيع التنفس حرية، يستطيع يسترجع نسبيا من حريته، وحزن على كل ما فقدته غزة من بنيان، من أرواح أطفال شيوخ. نسأل الله إن شاء الله بإذن الله أن تواصل هذا الاتفاق تاع وقف إطلاق النار حتى يسترجع الشعب الفلسطيني أنفاسه، خاصة الشعب الغزاوي. نحن لنا ثقة بإذن الله في الشعب الفلسطيني لأخذ الأمور بجدية بأنفسه ويبني بإذن الله غزة، وهذا ليس بغريب على الشعب الفلسطيني. شعب يبني من لا شيء، يبني أشياء. هو الآن يعني ترك بصمة للإنسانية ستتذكرها أجيال وأجيال إن شاء الله. فنحن هنا يعني وقفتنا وقفة رمزية فقط حتى نحسس الرأي العام السويسري بهذا التغير. نسأل الله أن يكون يعني يستمر هذا الوضع إن شاء الله، وأقل ما يمكن أن نقدمه للشعب الفلسطيني. شكرا
عبد الله، كلمة عبد الله هذا اليوم ماذا ساحة الأمم المتحدة؟
ساحة الأمم المتحدة
تحية لأهل غزة وأحباب. إن شاء الله الفوز قريب إن شاء الله، والاحتلال إلى زوال، والنصر لفلسطين ولأهل غزة. تحياتنا لكل أهل غزة، وعاشت المقاومة وعاشت فلسطين. الله
nous avons pu observer à Gaza. Et cela n'est pas étonnant, car c'est la même entité. Ce sont les mêmes soldats génocidaires qui agissent, tout comme ils ont agi au Liban et en Syrie. Il est important que nous gardions à l'esprit que ce que fait Israël est illégal. Nous ne devons pas normaliser ces crimes. Tout comme Israël occupe illégalement Gaza, Israël occupe illégalement la Cisjordanie et Jérusalem-Est. La Cour internationale de justice a émis un avis consultatif allant dans ce sens en juillet dernier. Suivant cet avis, l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies a voté une résolution exigeant la fin de l'occupation israélienne en Palestine. Nous attendons maintenant que les États membres suivent ces résolutions en s'abstenant de reconnaître la présence israélienne dans ces territoires comme légale, en veillant à ne pas fournir d'aide ou d'assistance au maintien de la situation créée par l'occupation. Cela comprend la de munitions et d'équipements connexes vers Israël, en mettant en œuvre des sanctions telles que des interdictions de voyager et des gels d'avoirs contre les personnes et entités impliquées dans le maintien de la présence illégale d'Israël en Palestine. Ce sont les termes qui ont été votés à l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies qui se trouve derrière nous. En 4 jours, Israël a arrêté plus de 200 Palestiniens en Cisjordanie. Israël a tué des dizaines de Palestiniens et tue de manière continue depuis des années. C'est le génocide caché qui dure depuis 100 ans en Palestine. L'occupation est à l'origine de tous les crimes israéliens. Sans occupation, il n'y aurait ni colonisation, ni entrave à la liberté de circuler, ni blocus, ni arrestation, ni torture, ni bombardement, ni meurtre israélien en Palestine. Tout cela atteint directement et indirectement la santé physique et mentale des Palestiniens. C'est pour cela qu'en tant que soignants, nous nous devons de nous mobiliser pour mettre fin à cette occupation. Les soignants, mais aussi toute personne éprise de justice. C'est pour cela que nous vous invitons à interpeller vos gouvernements respectifs, mais également l'ONU et son Conseil de sécurité, afin que des décisions contraignantes et des sanctions soient prises. Nous allons justement mettre en œuvre une opération de mailing pour que les personnes qui ne sont pas présentes ici puissent participer à la mobilisation. Il faut transférer ça autour de vous, c'est sur nos réseaux sociaux. Nous allons envoyer des mailings, des mails en masse aux représentants du Conseil de sécurité. Mais aussi et surtout, avant d'exiger des gouvernements, nous-mêmes, nous devons, en boycottant les produits israéliens et des entreprises qui soutiennent Israël et l'occupation, en boycottant les événements et tout ce qui soutient Israël. On vous encourage donc à suivre le mouvement BDS, qui cible de manière efficace et qui porte ses fruits. On a vu les victoires de BDS contre plusieurs entreprises, dont Carrefour en Jordanie, Carrefour dans le sultanat d'Oman, et bien d'autres encore. Mobilisons-nous pour les droits des Palestiniens, de Gaza à Jenin et dans toute la Palestine. De Gaza à Jenin, libérons la Palestine.
De Gaza à Jenin, libérons la Palestine.
De Gaza à Jenin, libérons la Palestine.
De Gaza à Jenin, libérons la Palestine.
De Gaza à Jenin,
la Palestine.
De Gaza à Jenin,
la Palestine.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. All right, guys. We've got some incredible action points for you to engage in. So, yes, we are here outside the UN to make our demands visible for physical mobilization, demanding an audience with various different UN officials, but also we want you to take action.
Bravo, bravo. Solidarité avec la Palestine. Bravo. Bon appétit. You, Tunisien.
With our
bon appétit.
We want them to see the people united will never be defeated.
Ouais.
Will never be defeated. United will never be defeated. All right, so what you need to do is go onto White Coats for Gaza, which somebody's got the logo here for face recognition. If you just turn around, looks like this. Planting lunches for Gaza. I've literally butchered the French language there. But basically, White Coats for Gaza, it's got the link to the petition. Go on there, sign that petition, share it to your family and friends, send it to all your connections, all your WhatsApp groups, and make sure we flood those inboxes of these UN officials. They need to see that moral citizens of the world are collectively asking for humanitarian intervention, which is long overdue. All right, I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker, which some of you may recognize as he led a really incredible workshop this morning on what next after a ceasefire. He is a Palestinian surgeon based in England. He's been involved in various medical aid missions to Gaza, both before October the 7th and after, leading medical aid delegations in Lebanon too. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Harriet Bawaz.